I need to share it. Yes. Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's Thursday, and of course, Brian here, and I'm joined with my co-host,
His fame
Daniel.
is spreading all over the country now.
Yes. Yeah.
It's Daniel Payton. And if you don't know that, then you can't read the screen right here because it's me.
So,
It's been a busy time since we were last live on here.
yes. What has happened?
Well, Brian knows a lot of what's happened because
no.
he was part of it. I was in Connecticut. I got to go to Hartford, Connecticut for Connecticon, and that was a very interesting experience. It was a lot bigger Comic Con than I was expecting, but very nice, very well run.
So, not what you were expecting then.
Well, I hadn't been to it before, so I kind of had I didn't have a lot of expectations, like up or down or anything. It's just that I do a lot of cons that are what I call the mid range, which are about, I would say, a third smaller than this one, if not smaller than that. And so usually, if you have your local Comic Con from like Fanboy, Knoxville, Conuga, and Chattanooga, things like that, there's a certain size, certain understanding. This one's hefty. It had a lot going on. It was across a lot of space in a large hotel and a very large convention center.
Yes.
So it was actually spread out pretty well and had a lot going on, but it was very well managed. They did a good job with this one. Some Comic Cons, they don't manage them well. They have a lot of stuff going on, but it's just like, okay, free for all, do it. And this one, they were on the ball the whole time. I was really glad about that.
I noticed that they had it together. Obviously, it was my first one. But, given my VIP status and my lovely badge, I was able to follow the route that you took me when I first met you, which was back through the door and then just through the line and then easily up the stairs, because getting through the thousands of Comic-Con guests that were taking up every inch of grass, concrete in front of the Marriott and the convention center itself, I was not going through that door. So security was nice enough. Here's my badge. Please let me in. Come on in. Yes. Love it. Yeah. It was bigger and well managed, like you said.
Yeah, I elevated Brian to the professional status at Comic-Con with a little help from some friends of mine there. And so Brian got the VIP treatment.
I did. That I did. How do you share the show? I'd like to share it. Don't forget to like and share, folks.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Hello to my grandmother, who's the first one here. Hello. And just as a reminder, hello to YouTube. We're back. We're back on YouTube live right now.
Hello, YouTube world.
Yeah, I know it. Hey, we got some subscribers on there, I think. I hope.
We can build this. We can work on it.
We need 500 followers on Facebook to qualify for stars, I guess. I don't know what the stars thing is, but everyone's doing this stars for creators. So I'm like, I'll join the bandwagon. Why not, right? So we have 217 currently. That's not a bad number. I'm not complaining about that number at all. I'd like to see more.
Oh, yeah.
1.5 million followers.
So, well, as we were talking about, as I said last week while I wasn't here, was Thursday last week. Early in the morning, I flew from Detroit to Connecticut. I got there at 8 in the morning, and I got there on time. Everything went great. I was the only invited guest who was being flown in that didn't have massive delays. The guests were supposed to be there between 2 and 5 in the afternoon last Thursday, and some didn't get there till 3 in the morning Friday. And they had to be off the plane, get to the place, and then the very next morning on. They're there doing their thing. So I felt bad for them because I had a full day of relaxing and then getting ready and then a night's sleep. And they're like, I've been here for 2 hours. I'm like, oh, yeesh. So we had some plane trouble, but I got there last Thursday and I was expecting to take the day to get ready, get my hotel room, set everything up. And then Friday I get going. And halfway through the day, I see that Brian says he's coming in. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. What? Today?
Yes.
It was supposed to be Friday.
Thursday was only $20. I'm like, all right, I'll go Thursday.
Thursday did have activities. They were doing some gaming stuff and they had some panels, but the actual big full-on con, the vendors halls, the actors stuff, all the major panels, all the that stuff didn't start till Friday.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was on the run to find Brian and be like, oh Brian, because otherwise you wouldn't have met me. You wouldn't have seen me because at that point I was already in my hotel room and they're like, well, you're good for the day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh dear.
Yeah. It was all right. It worked out though.
But it worked out good because that gave us a chance to actually sit and talk. Because as you saw, this Connecticon was busy. They sold out of tickets for Friday, Saturday, and almost sold out for Sunday. So I was busy the whole time. My panels were full. My table was always busy. And so it's like if we would just met each other on Friday or Saturday or something like that, it would have been like I could say hi and then
yes,
it's difficult.
Well, that's what happened. You were busy when I finally because I came back Saturday and I got there just when it started. I think it was, no, actually it was almost 1:00, I believe. But yeah, you were busy. I snapped some pictures. I waited. But you kind of have to keep going. Maybe there's a schedule. It's lunchtime. Dan's going on lunch. Uh-oh. All right. Well, I guess I'm going to go explore and, see what trouble I can get into.
Well, I was hoping you get a chance to come to one of these because then you actually can see firsthand what a Comic-Con looks like. The difference is this one had the least amount of celebrity presence than most of my map. And there's two reasons for that. One, this Comic-Con is dedicated more toward its gaming side and its panels, authors. So it has a different lean there. But also, if anybody's been keeping up with the news, SAG has been on strike. And being on strike means their celebrities have a major amount of limitations on what they can do for like Comic-Cons, stuff like that. They cannot, by contract for the union, talk about their current projects or stuff they've been in. So when you go to a Comic-Con as a celebrity and you sit there, unless you are so famous, people just want to meet you. Let's say Will Ferrell comes, people are going to be like, oh, look, you. And that's all they care about. But for some celebrities, especially like the sci-fi and nerdy stuff, that people are like, oh, you were in this. Let's talk about that. And they're like, I can't. So they're having to back out. And that happened to a lot of people that they had to back out. So you didn't get that level of the experience of meeting the famous people, which is fun. But you got to see all the cosplaying, which this one had some good cosplaying. It was actually, I was very impressed with some of the cosplay here.
Yeah.
And you also got to experience the sprawling nature of a Comic-Con. There's a lot of walking in these things.
Yeah, I got my steps in that day for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So was there anything surprising for you, something about it that you weren't expecting or just outright new to you?
The whole thing.
Well, okay, yeah, that true.
Like you, I was not expecting it to be as large as it was. I mean, it was used literally every nook and cranny of that center, and put vendors and they did it in a good way too. I like the layout and everything, but yeah, no, I wasn't expecting it to be that huge. I knew that they were popular in Hartford, but I didn't realize that much.
Well, I said there's talk of inviting me back again next year, and I'm eager. It was well run. I love conventions that done well. There's actually been some conventions that I won't go back to, or when I've been asked to, I just won't because it wasn't run well. There was one in Chattanooga that was now since defunct, and it was terribly run, so I didn't go back to that. And there's one in Nashville that they were poor communication. I didn't even get to go to it because of how bad they were running the outset. And then a couple years later, they got sued by all their people because they weren't doing things right. So some cons don't do a good job, but this one did a great job.
Right.
So did you like the cosplay?
Yes, of course. Of course. People I mean, you see the usual costumes that I was expecting. And then of course you come across costumes that are unique and their own take on a character, or maybe they created a character for a show or whatever and it's their own. So it was, yeah, there was a lot of it. Yeah. A lot of gaming. Like you said, it was a lot of gaming. So, yep.
Yeah, I was impressed with the amount of gaming stuff there. In fact, after hours, we went. My group would go out to dinner. There was a really nice hamburger place right downtown that actually was open late enough for us to go to it, because a lot of places close there. A lot of it closes down at 8 o'clock around there. And so we went and ate dinner. We'd go back to the convention. Then after hours gaming, you could either have all these tables out there where you could rent games, which you didn't pay. You just borrowed games from this massive collection and sat down and played with people, either strangers you met or your friends you brought. And I was in my group. We had for our people, we had Steve Jackson. And if anybody knows that name, if you've played Munchkin or Melee or GURPS, or the list goes on and on, he's the creator of all that. He's been a major game designer since the 70s. He worked with Gary Gygax. So that makes it was quite interesting sitting playing games with him. And I enjoyed it. And he was also on a couple of my panels, which was kind of fun, because one of the panels was talking about writing and working in games, which I do. And my specialty was definitely online games and current games. And he's sitting there as this grandmaster of all the games of yore, and he has great stories. And I'm like, we can all of us just sit down in the audience and let you talk, because you've been there. So it was fun. That was a lot of fun.
How well did we do at the table?
I did. This was one of my best events.
Good.
I did.
I noticed that you were busy a couple of times, actually. So
yeah, I was busy throughout the weekend. They had some downtimes and uptimes, but I was busy throughout the weekend, and that's saying a lot, because I did more panels at this convention than I've ever done at any other. I've done panels before, definitely, but most of the time I could do like 1 or 2 at the weekend. I did 5. And so that takes up a lot of time for me, because I have to leave my booth and go do those panels and talk, which I love to do. So to have such a successful booth weekend with that much time taken up with panels is exceptional. And I really love doing those panels. It was a lot of fun talking to people, answering questions. I did a lot about writing and producing books, which was a couple of the panels, and those were really popular, because we have a lot of new and aspiring authors coming, and they have questions that I wish somebody had answered for me years ago. I've learned the hard way. Yep.
Hello, Chris Evans. Hello, Chris.
I believe
so what exactly happens to your books when you're at this panel? Is someone taking over, or do people have to wait for you to return? Can they still buy the book and then come back for a signature?
That's primarily what happens.
Okay.
Normally, one of 2 things happens. Now, for me, in this instance, and a lot of them I've done recently, we have a group of people there. I had 3 other authors there, and with them, there was one author's wife, one author's fiance. So we had, 6 people in total behind that booth.
Yeah.
And multiple of us. It wasn't just me. A lot of the authors together would go do a panel, but not everybody. So somebody would always be there to watch it and answer questions, sell books, whatever. And yeah, if in that instance, every time if somebody bought books while I wasn't there, they're there for the day, because you buy a ticket, you get it for the day. They'd come back later when I was back and get it signed. So I had that happen on several occasions. And yeah, if that's not the case, if I'm working at a convention where I'm a booth by myself, the convention will supply somebody, one of their workers, to come and stand at the booth while I'm gone. And I usually get to meet the person beforehand, before it starts for the weekend, and say, okay, my books cost this much. I don't charge for signing. I go through the routine so they know, A, how to sell it, and B, what to tell the people. But that's one of the 2 ways it goes. I like having other people there that are the authors, because whereas a convention people, they're there just to stand there and make sure no one's taking a book and sell if they want it. My other authors, they know my books. They're all like, oh, you got to read this. Oh, you like fantasy? Check this out. So they're better because they're used to selling books.
It's true. Even across the board, did one sell better than the other? More popular?
Right now, the Owl-Headed Wand is definitely my top seller.
Okay.
It used to be the Dragon Wand series, and they're still selling really well, but the Owl-Headed Wand is definitely selling the best right now. At this convention, it definitely was the Owl-Headed Wand.
Why do you think that was?
Well, for one thing, it's new, but another is that the best description of that book is Harry Potter meets the Last Avatar or Last Airbender.
Right.
So
Okay.
when you say it to these people, and there's a lot of Airbender fans you saw walking around, a lot of Harry Potter fans. So when you say that, they're like, oh, and they grab the book, look at it. When I go to like the Dragon Wand books, they're high fantasy. They're a lot more like The Hobbit, but for kids. So it definitely attracts attention, but when that one grabs people. Plus, it's a standalone, and while people love series, if you A, don't know the author, or B, are just today it's kind of growing a little bit in this direction, standalones are a good buy. The Winter Wizard Chronicles did really well here. I almost sold out completely of that one. So
Nice.
that one did pretty good.
A lot of people have my face on their book, on the back of the book.
Yeah, I actually told a couple of them that I turned over and I said, if you see this guy walking around, he might sign it for you. So I was hoping somebody would come across you.
No,
they did.
that would have been nice. No, I think that I was moving around too quickly to really be stopped or anything really. And there was a lot of people. Like I said, there was just thousands of people, and it just felt like, okay, there's at least 1,000 more in the vendor room than this cafeteria size, even bigger than that on the other side. You go down the steps outside, it's just us, more people.
Yep.
So, yes, thousands were there. I believe it was reported on the news. So
yeah, I almost made it on the local news. They were setting up and they were asking for people to interview, but they asked me, and then someone else had to have me go somewhere else, and it didn't work out. But yeah, they had the news there on Thursday. I know that because that's when I saw them. But I wouldn't be surprised. It's a big event there, and no offense to Hartford, but it seems to be this was a pretty unique thing to have there. Something newsworthy. I will say, to be honest, Hartford does not hold like a major attraction as a city for me to go back to. The convention does. We drove around Hartford first day looking for food, and it was interesting seeing that city. We were looking for places to eat, and where Google was sending us, we're like, we're gonna stay in the car. I'll be very fair. Otherwise, the downtown was nice.
Listen, I'll say it for you because I'm from Connecticut originally. I don't care for Hartford. I'm sorry, Hartford. I don't. But you have a beautiful convention center. The Marriott was a beautiful place as well. The downtown itself was okay. I did venture a little bit just to see, but other than that, no, I don't drive into Hartford. Sorry. I'm smart. So I lifted in. But no, I don't. Hartford can be sketchy. I'll say it. Hartford can be sketchy. Every town has one, right?
I live in Detroit. Come on. I can tell you where not to go.
So yeah. Other than that, Connecticut is a beautiful state to live in. Just not unless it's for business.
And Chris is correct. Let's say Chris is actually quite correct.
Oh.
And he says if you can relate a book to another well-known book, it will definitely get more attention.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And that's actually been one of my difficulties with the Dragon Wand, because it doesn't have any decent direct relation. I say Aragon at times because of the dragon stuff in it, but the dragons, as anybody's read knows, are not as paramount in the story as some of it's like I struggle with that one to get people to understand what to relate it to. But the owl-headed wand, it's easy.
Yeah.
There's some definite relations there that
Yeah.
connect and grab people.
I think every author or writer or whatever at some point will attach a likeness of something,
Mhm.
you know. Well, if you like this, it's almost like that, you know. I got
Yeah.
some. So then, you know, sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, okay,
Well,
I'm
it's like
interested."
for the Earth/Slash Starship and Earth/Slash Starfleet. My best thing to tell people is this series is a Star Trek like story. You know that always that people are like, oh, and that gets their attention because it does. It has the feel of a Star Trek story without being Star Trek.
Right.
And now it kind of hurt a little a couple times. There are people who are grabbing it and going, oh, because the guy standing right next to me, Keith DeCandido,
Mm-hmm.
DeCandido. Sorry,
Yeah.
DeCandido. I always say his name wrong. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, Keith. I'll get that right one of these years. I'm
That's
no
why
big.
I didn't even try. I didn't try. I just saw
He's
the first name.
Keith is going to be a guest on our show relatively soon, but he has written a multitude of Star Trek books
I
for
know.
Star Trek. He is an award-winning tie-in author, which we've had before. Tie-in authors write for known intellectual properties, IPs out there, and he's worked with a whole bucket of them. He was the main one for Farscape. He's worked on Supernatural. He's worked
Yeah.
on stuff like Aliens and Halo and on game ones, but big one of his earliest is Star Trek. He's done loads of Star Trek books, and his were
Yes.
right there in the corner. Right past them were my books. I have my Remnant, which is sci-fi, and then Earth/Slash Starship. So when I would say Star Trek, like people go, "Oh, it's a Star Trek book," and grab it, and I'm like, "Well, no, it's not Star Trek. It's just like Star Trek."
Right.
So I was like, if I flipped my booth, if I'd known, because I put my booth up before he was there. If
Yeah.
I had known, I would have flipped it so I wouldn't have had that overlap. Because I didn't want to confuse people. I mean, I love the books, but mine is not Star Trek.
Right.
It's not Star Trek.
Right. Yeah. As much as I wish it was, it's I believe it's better.
Thank you. And so did Chris. Chris says Dan tends towards original work, makes it harder to promote, but better to read, in his opinion. I thank you. I agree.
Has
I do
Chris,
love.
how many books has Chris read of yours? All of them? I never asked.
Well,
I'd
let's
like to
see.
know.
How many of my books
Any,
have you read?
any. I don't know if he's read any. I'd like to know.
Well, he's read some. He's left reviews for several on Amazon, which I appreciate highly.
Yes.
But one of my difficulties at these conventions, especially standing around other authors, is that everything I have is entirely original.
Yeah.
I have one author at the end, Rick Hines, who has a lot of original work, but he writes stuff that is in D&D as well.
Yeah.
And though it's original, it's not, it's hard to say this for D&D because it works in D&D. So he ties it directly to Dungeons and Dragons. And then I have Keith next to me who has books on a table that are spanning all kinds of well-known fantasy and science fiction properties out there that are very famous. I mean, Star Trek, Supernatural, Aliens, just there's so many books there. And then you have me. And so people come around and they get this taste of all this. I recognize this. And then they come to my stuff and like, well, this is all original. And sometimes the original is difficult to work with because you don't have any idea what you're going to get yourself into. It's like going to how many people struggle with, oh, I'm going to tell you about this new series I've seen on Netflix or online or on TV that I'd love you to try. It's completely different than anything else you've seen. Or it's kind of like this, but it's totally original. A lot of people, maybe I'll give it a try. We hem and haw because we've been burned before too. We started a series that everybody's just loving it. Turn on, I'm like, oh, no, not for me. I tried Downton Abbey, and I just couldn't get into it. I have nothing wrong with it. It just didn't grab me. And so I know people who love it, and I appreciate people love it and enjoy it. It's fine. It didn't ring with me, and yet but I at least tried. I'll give it that.
Okay.
Chris says everything. I'll post it
I
here.
can't see. I need my glasses.
Chris says everything I'm aware of that Dan has written, including the Crystal Needle series.
Okay, so Chris, any favorite?
Ooh.
Anyone. I'm curious out of everything that you've read.
Oh, and there's a little surprise there. The Crystal Needle's been out of print for almost 10 years. I'm reintroducing it with a whole new writing. I took the story and I rewrote the whole thing, and I'm have it in some publishers' hands for consideration.
I have two aunts that are on vacation in the Cape currently.
They don't have internet access.
Where they are. Well, I don't know. Remember, I did I don't know. Maybe you didn't know. I did a show with Sherry one time at her condo. Not Sherry's, but my aunt's. And I do remember doing it outside at a table, just like this. Laptop.
Yes.
It was horrible because I kept losing service. So she might. Who knows? Unless they're late. I don't know. Or they could be doing something.
Well, fortunately, this will be available as a recording, so they can enjoy our rambling about Comic-Con.
I don't. That's true. That's true. Our videos never go anywhere. And don't forget, we're on YouTube as well. I'm just.
And surprise people, there are new chapters for Joshua of Egypt. I recorded a bunch of them, and Brian is rolling them out. Have you got them all out yet that I've given you, or are you still holding on to some?
No. 9 and 10 are out. So 10 was the last, obviously. 10 was the last one to go out just Saturday, I believe.
Okay, so I've got recording to do.
Yeah, I pushed one out then when you sent it to me, and then I waited, I think. Yeah, because I already checked it is out. So I think it posted Saturday. So that's what it was. I waited some time during the convention, and that's when I popped it out. So, yep, Saturday. So yeah, you do have some writing to do. I had to cram my writing in just to get it done. Yeah.
Chris says that the Owl-Headed Wand is his current favorite, but I love all of his work. Thank you. Including his in-game story, which is currently, I have a new story rolling out for that too. And the last chapter before the event is launching tomorrow.
Did you see, I'm pretty sure you did. Did you see the post that somebody wrote about your stories, the game and everything? It was this long post on Facebook, I believe, from a gamer talking about something. I can't remember, but he said he loved the stories and the game. I guess you can pay for things in game, but you can also
there's in-game and app purchases in our game.
Okay, so I guess he was talking about that and everything, but overall, I'm just a great message about the game.
Yeah, I saw that. Yes, I did, and I'm very thankful that he wrote that. We've had at least one gamer who's decided to go on Gamer Rant on our game last about week, and I'm not going to name him. I'm not going to bring up the subject. It's just we're trying not to address it. But he decided to be a little bad-mouthy of the game. He didn't attack my story. He didn't go after the story, just the game. But this other person decided to step in and be positive, which
okay.
I like it when people don't argue. They bring positivity to a situation. So that's what he tried to do, and I'm glad. I'm glad people are enjoying my work.
Yeah,
but Chris,
absolutely.
I'll say this. I've had a lot of people, friends, family, readers who have read my works, and they've all said the same thing. The Owl-Headed Wand is their favorite book of mine now. It's becoming the most popular book of mine. And I really hope to see that grow. I have no problem with that. If anybody thinks I'm upset, I want my old books to be more popular. No, I love the Owl-Headed Wand. I think it's one of my best works I've ever written. And so I love the Dragon Wand series. I love the Winter Wizard Chronicles. I think they're all valid, great stories. But I think the Owl-Headed Wand really shows what I've grown into as an author at this point. And I hope to only get better. So, and that's why I'm really heavily trying to push it more. Why I'm trying to get those 10 reviews on Amazon, get to that 10 mark, because that's when I can start getting some of the better promotional stuff going. And I really want to get out there because I think it has the ability, the capacity to be a top tier book if people would actually notice it. Yeah. And Chris mentions the player in question always seems to have issues, and it doesn't hurt. It doesn't help his cause that the guy who does this has a belief in writing everything in all caps at all times. He has vision issues, which I respect the problem, but he always types everything in all caps so he can see what he's typing better. But that only enhances the perception of yelling and anger online. And so it makes his complaint that much more brutal. And so, but I mean, again, as a game, Justin and I and others who work in this game understand that players have the right and the perfect responsibility for their opinions. There are a lot of times we take those opinions and consider them when it comes to what's going on in the game. And that does include what's happening with Mike's complaints now. But there are times we have to look at their suggestions and ideas and tell them that's not feasible. That's not what we're going to do. So, I appreciate when people actually have something to say, even if it's negative, as long as they are constructive. If you just come in to be rude, mean, and nasty, I'll take you off the page because there's no point in that. You're not being contributing to anything.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why, Chris, and anybody who's listening, who's part of the game, why we haven't really been taking that down or addressing it directly online, because we don't want to, A, stir any problems because we don't want to seem like we're arguing, and B, everybody has a right to their opinion.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned all of that because it appears that I'm very surprised, and I don't know why. An email came through because now with the strike, with the actors and everything else, and now influencers on TikTok and YouTube and all that are trying to figure out what they're supposed to do, because some of those are, they want to get to a certain status to be represented. So this person is wondering why, because most of them are choosing not to do videos or something like that. They're protesting themselves, that's fine. We are not part of SAG-AFTRA. I don't have the money to be part of SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah, it's actually pretty pricey to get involved with that.
But we also, because of all the benefits you actually get when you're part of it. So, I mean, yeah, trust me, I've had people that were part of SAG-AFTRA on my show in the past. Now I can't. Nope, zero.
We gotta wait till this blows over before we can do that.
I would, unless I don't even know if I could get them on to talk about the strike, because I was even thinking because I have a friend, a PR person in California who represents all these stars. One of them I tried to get on my show, Michael Learned, and I even called her office phone. I have her office number, which she never answered the phone, but I know she's part of the strike. So, but then I'm like, I can't get her on because she's striking and no one's doing anything. So for the person who wrote the email, we're not part of it. We're going to keep going. We do our show. We're not paid. I pay to do this. Keep that in mind. So, and it's entertainment. That's it. So, and our guests are not paid. We welcome everyone.
In my opinion on the whole subject about us being involved,
why? I don't even know. We're not that big. But
beyond the fact unfortunately, I will say we're not that big, but we're working on it. Is that only reason that we would pull and make a statement is to make a statement in support of said union. However, we're neither for or against.
It's like politics and religion, which has been my standing thing in any show that I do with anyone. It's not talked about unless it is the subject matter of the book or whatever the person's doing. Other than that, I'm not telling you who I voted for. I don't care who you voted for. You want to know all that stuff? Watch the news.
Yeah, we're not the news. I don't want
There
that
you go.
responsibility. And we can say privately and personally what we do
Yep.
and do not support when it comes to the situation. I don't mind saying that.
Right.
But as a podcast, as that we are not involved with that. And to be very fair, if we were trying to be involved with it, they wouldn't. If something happened with us, they would not be supporting us.
Right.
They're not coming in and paying a check or giving or signing up actors to be our guests. They're literally, they would ignore us in a heartbeat. So there's no responsibility on our end to show support for them publicly.
Right.
And we're not also against them, neither way. I will say, in a broad sense, I feel everybody deserves a fair pay.
Right.
I think everybody deserves fair workspace and work. That's exactly the subject at hand. It doesn't matter where or who you work for. All that should be covered properly.
Right. Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah.
If you think we should be on strike in favor of them, we wouldn't have that much of an impact. We really wouldn't. Now I'll say this: if you did get somebody on here who was from SAG, whose only thing they want to talk about, because there's restrictions on that, was to kind of educate people what's going on, I wouldn't be against that.
Right. Yeah.
Because it would just be a stream of information. We would be saying, this is what it is, this is what's happening, this is the person who's there who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
He or she would give that information. Thank you for being here. That would be fine by me. But I can't say anything because, for heaven's sakes, I have no connection to this. I know as much as the news can tell you. In fact, probably less, because I don't watch the news that often. So if whoever's sending the email, I thank you for your concern, but we're going to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, this isn't real. This is junk. Who would be sending me an email? Are you seriously going to continue doing your shows even though everyone is striking, including influencers on TikTok and YouTube? ? Like no name or whatever. I'm like, really? It's a real email. I'm like, okay. Thank you for thinking of us so highly.
I'm an influencer? When did that happen?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, you got me. But okay. I don't think that well, I'm not going to say that maybe 50-50. We entertain and influence people, hopefully to do good things or right or do whatever your passion is. Influence. Yeah, we're not on TikTok. We're not TikTokers. Sorry.
No, I that's the one social media platform I'm really not interested in. I mean, if people enjoy it, have fun, but I have only enough time to deal with what little social media I do have. So, yeah, Chris bringing up a little bit what we were talking about before with that player who is complaining, and Chris, I'm not going to really address it here because I don't want to ruffle feathers for anybody, and you know full well that certain people like their feathers ruffled and causing problems. So, if you didn't know this, Heroes Rising is an answer to a game that was destroyed over 10 years ago. I played it heavily, and so did Chris and other people, called Superhero City. And the game was thriving, doing very well, and going great. And then EA, the gaming company, went out of its way and bought the game because it had millions of players and lots of money and all that. And they bought a lot of online games, and then overnight, shut them all down. It was a tax dodge. They bought a bunch of stuff and then shut it all down, and then got more money than they spent through tax dodge. Perfectly legal, but it pissed off every player because there's nothing wrong with the game. They just decided to say, oh, I'm sorry, you got a couple weeks and then it's over. And years later, Nick Shapiro decided to use his technical skill, because he had worked with Superhero City, to craft a version of Superhero City and call it Heroes Rising. And I wasn't part of that when he did it. I joined after it launched. But a lot of players like to make the connection. And So if anybody in our game, or anybody who's peripheral who doesn't know all the history, wants to sit there and say that the game itself caused it to be closed, caused it to be shut down, Superhero City was shut down because EA wanted a tax dodge. That's the bottom line. Yeah, there was some shenanigans behind the scenes between the developers and the gamers, and there was stuff that was going up and going down. But ultimately, if EA hadn't done that, the game would have thrived a lot longer. But and EA got a bit bad taste in the mouth for a lot of gamers because they did that. And it wasn't just us. There was a whole bunch of games, online games. They came in, bottom up, and then just stomped them flat. Millions of gamers across this country lost years of gameplay, and lots of, they put money in these games.
Don't remind me. I spent so much money on Sims Online to take it away from me. Oh, and I still own the discs too.
Oh. And people wonder why I like, my PlayStation and my, I have PS5 and all that. I like buying a disc. I have the whole game there because I don't care. Now I can play it forever. So, but Heroes Rising is doing fine. The story is rolling out, and tomorrow launches a new feature, and it's actually tied into the story I'm writing. So, everybody who's a player who's listening, get ready. Something new is coming tomorrow, and I think you'll enjoy it.
There's always something good happening with that game.
We try our best.
They have a good author writing those stories.
I know he's an international best-selling author.
A genius.
Yeah, Chris says I personally won't play an EA product unless I own the full game on disc. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and EA didn't just do that once. They have a bad history of having a game and going, oh well, we're bored with this, and just cutting out. There was another gaming company. In fact, I wrote Bark, my superhero series. I wrote that for a game for this company, and it was a superhero game.
Mm-hmm.
And this company, every year, less than a year, they would go, oh, wait. We want to try that style of game. Shut down an entire game. All its players go, sorry, go home, and then start with something else using the same art, a new game idea. And then they would go, oh, well, okay, we're getting bored with this. And they've started like 7 games. Shut down, start, shut down, start, shut down, start. And it's like, good God, I wrote this entire canon for them. And then all of a sudden, I'm sorry, nope, we're done. We're going to start something else. I was like, no one's going to want to play your games because they can't trust they'll be around next month. And so I eventually published the Bark books myself, or not myself, through my publisher, because I liked the story, and I created them into novels, took them out of the game style and put them into novels, and we published them. But when Nick asked me to be the story writer for Heroes Rising, I literally took him and said, promise me this is going to stay around longer than a couple months. I'm not putting the kind of time and effort into this to have it just go flying out the window. It's been almost 4 years now, and we're chugging along really well. Well, it's been over 4 years.
Yeah. So. I was the same way when Star Trek Online was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I was a beta tester. I played it before everybody else, which was cool. I'm considered a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lifetime subscriber. And I was worried that it's not going to last. They've done how many attempted, and it's still going strong. My God, I've been playing that game since it came out, and I can't even remember when the hell that was. To be honest with you, that was a while ago. But yeah, I get nervous when games come out because if they flop or if it's like a digital game or whatever, and if it doesn't work out, you can't play it anymore.
Yeah.
So I love discs. I have all my computer games, most of them still on discs. So yeah. Well, what else?
Well, I know that Star Trek has a storied history in games, in actual games. Throughout the 90s, they had about 5 different games they put out for consoles, from Nintendo through the PlayStation. They were all flops, just total flops. And then for computer, they had 2 that actually succeeded: Starfleet Academy and Birth of the Federation.
Yep, I've played both.
I played Birth Federation until I about burned the disc through. I love that game.
I own them. You can buy them on Steam. So
Yeah, I found that I was like, oh, I get my game back. Then but every console game they came out with was a bomb. And
yeah,
then in the mid 2000s they contracted with a different company that put out a series of games all in the same time. One for the Nintendo DS, one for the PlayStation, one for the Xbox, one for the computer, and I think one for the PSP. Oh, that was that time period. And they actually the one they did for PS2 because that's when it came out was phenomenal. I love it. I played that one. I still play that one. Um, those were fun, and that was the last and only time Star Trek had a successful console game. Was those. And so when Star Trek, the online you were talking about was coming around, I was like, Star Trek has a really bad history of lousy games. But I started playing it. I did enjoy it. I just recognized the kind of time investment it would take, and I did not have the time to put into a game like that. I
Mhm.
enjoyed it, and
Mhm.
I may get back to it someday and jump right back into it because I still have my account. I still played it for a little while,
Mhm.
but some games take some investment of time. They really do, and you have to pick and choose what time you spend. Chris says, I actually stopped playing all Marvel superhero online games when EA bought them. Yeah. Well, Disney, my God, there were several Marvel superhero games that I was playing. They were really good. Disney bought them and they were running them. Disney didn't touch them at first. They were doing great. I was playing them. People were playing them. And then Disney got in a spat with Fox over the Fantastic Four. And when they finally, when Fox made it clear, Fox, clear that they were never going to sell to Disney, which they have, that Disney got pissy about it and canceled all games because they owned the games that had any of the Fantastic Four characters in them. The game I was playing had every Marvel superhero in the entire universe. Fantastic Four was only just a few of them. And instead of going in and saying, "Well, we're taking those characters out because we don't own them and we don't like Fox for this," they just shut the game down.
Yeah.
And I hated that. The game that I cannot remember what it was called at this moment, but the game I was playing, it was a lot of fun. It was a really good game, and they just shut it down. Disney hasn't made good financial choices recently, I think, because that one was making a lot of money.
Yeah, I don't know anymore.
Well, then again, that's also a little piece of history here. Disney owned the rights to the Fantastic Four comic books, but the movie rights were still in the hands of Fox, and Fox refused to sell them. Sony owned the rights to the movies for Spider-Man, and Sony and Disney agreed to share, and so that's how come Spider-Man shows up in Disney properties because they borrowed the right to show them a few times. Fox would have nothing to do with them. And so Disney, when they canceled that game, also got a little pissy and killed off the entire Fantastic Four in a comic book, just killed the characters off. So it would end the comic book. So they were literally acting like a 2-year-old throwing a temper tantrum. So all the fans of Fantastic Four, all their characters died. Like,
Interesting.
yeah.
I don't follow the Marvel superheroes, so
I know all this because I know people who worked with them, and
yeah.
I don't be honest. I don't read comics. I never was into comics as a kid, but I know that when friends of mine who were in this were like, "Yep, they're killing off the Fantastic Four," and I was like, "Really? That's one of the oldest ones." Yeah, well, Disney got mad. The biggest villain the hero superheroes can't defeat, Disney. Oh, look, Valerie's here.
Oh yes, welcome. Hello from the Cape. Late.
Hope
Got
you're
10.
enjoying your vacation.
Hello. I wish I was down there. No, you're good. You're on vacation. It's allowed. It's allowed.
So, did you at the convention? Did you actually play any games?
I did not play any games. No.
Oh, you
I
should have
didn't
sat
get that brave.
Oh,
So
you should have. They would have loved it.
it was enough getting there and being there by myself. So I don't like large crowds. I can work a room. I can talk in front of large crowds. I don't have a problem with that. But just walking around, not really, I'm not there for a certain reason or whatever. But yeah, it was a little nerve wracking. So no, I just flowed right along with everybody else, looked at everything. So yeah, no, I didn't play anything.
Well, maybe next year when I come back, if I get to come back, and you get to come there, maybe I'll get you involved with some stuff there. You actually get in and play some games. And did you actually go to any panels?
I peeked in for your book cover. So that was at 3.
Yeah.
I didn't stick around. I didn't really see any other panels. No. I just went into different rooms, different vendors, inside, outside. I talked with a couple of people. That was about it. It was a good experience. It was enough for me.
Chris says his Iron Man, Marvel, Flash, Green Lantern, and DC were his favorite superheroes growing up.
Ah, yes. We all have our favorite superhero. Mine is Superman. So, yep.
Do you remember what mine is? It's unusual. Storm.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, hi, Jim Sadler's on.
Movies. Hello from Oxford,
England. Yes, and I sent a whole. Oh, Jim's Wolverine. Wolverine's cool. I grew up not reading comics as much, but I watched cartoons, and then I remember the early '90s when the X-Men cartoon came on, and that's when I first was really introduced to a lot of superheroes, a lot of Marvel heroes. And as a kid growing up in Oklahoma, where the weather tries to kill you on a regular basis, a hero that can control the weather is pretty attractive to you, for whoever it is. And what I haven't told a lot of people is Storm also has her great flaw is she's claustrophobic. And I've always lived with a version of claustrophobia it's very different. Comparatively, I can be in a small room and I'm fine. Darkness makes me very, very terrified. I can't be in darkness, and it's akin to claustrophobia. And so the idea of a crippling phobia that your superpowers can't fight, that you just have to live with, gave me a connection to the character that no other character really could relate with. And then the idea of controlling the weather. I mean, I lived through 8 tornadoes before I was out of high school, so I don't. Yeah, the idea of a weather controlling sounds pretty nice.
Yes, it does.
So yes, hey, yeah, I just sent a bunch of books to Jim in England because he got them already. So he can't be around people. He lives in solitude. Yeah, he's by himself a lot, which gives him time to read.
What? Storm is the what? Goat? Does that mean something? What's that mean?
Greatest of all time.
Oh, okay.
When they say a sports person is the GOAT, he's the greatest of all time.
Okay.
And then the second part makes sense.
All right. And she's hot. It's true. Storm is good, yes.
Wolverine has an interesting history in the Marvel Universe. He's an accidental popular character. He wasn't actually supposed to be that popular. In fact, they wanted to make him a character, but he was so gruff and rude and all that they thought, well, people won't like him. They're going to like, Cyclops. They're going to like other characters. And Wolverine just skyrocketed to popularity as soon as he hit the scene. He has always been top tier of the popularity scale for superheroes.
Absolutely.
And yes, Halle Berry did a good job playing Storm. Jim mentions her. I did appreciate the movies they did in the early 2000s. I liked Halle Berry's version of Storm. They, in fact, at one point were looking at doing a Storm movie with her, but Fox canceled their X-Men movies after the third X-Men movie flopped. They were worried about financial, if anything, be successful.
Mm. All right. So what are we working on? What are you working on currently? Are we still doing Comic Cons? Or you're writing something new? Coming up with something? What are you doing?
Right now, I'm setting up a schedule. I had some problems with my schedule of Comic Cons. Things fell through, so I don't have any set in stone at this point. I'm supposed to be at the one here in Detroit in November, but I haven't got my final say on that. I was supposed to be at Fan X. Unfortunately, things fell through on that. Um, Working on that. But story wise, I'm in the middle of course this Heroes Rising story, getting that put out there, which I've actually made myself a mistake in there, and I'm trying to come up with an idea for a short story to write for the Writers of the Future contest.
Mm-hmm.
I am working on the edits and writing for a couple of manuscripts that are finished that we're going to be publishing soon, including the sequel to The Owl-Headed Wand and the new version of the Crystal Needle.
Okay.
Yeah, Chris is right. Wolverine is most popular in his opinion because he takes no crap from no one. He says and does what you wish you could. But yeah, I'm always working on writing something, but I made a mistake. I will admit this. I'm working on the Heroes Rising story. I wrote this entire story at the end of April, early part of May, because I had a big open period of time that I could write it. I got to this was launching tomorrow, which is not actually the end of it. It's the conclusion before the event. There's the wrap up part of the story. I didn't write that. I wrote all the way up to tomorrow's post, and then I got busy with conventions and writing other stuff and editing stuff. Well, I'll get back to this. Well, I've actually in the story I've written a few things that I said. I have the character say, "Okay, get ready. We're going to do this," or "I'm sending you there." I'm alluding to big things happening, and I lost my notes. So
Oh,
I'm sitting going, "Oh crap! What was I going to do with him?" So I'm working on that.
very nice.
Need a Zen backstory. That dwarf. Oh, yes. One of the characters from Starfleet, Zen, is one of my favorite new characters I've written. I love his character. He's funny. He's he's a little ridiculous. And he's actually based on a friend of mine. And Chris, you're right. I'm always busy. So, Jim, did you finish Earth's Last Starfleet? I'm curious about this.
Is that the one that you sent to him, or because I know he has the first one? Because I sent the first one, I believe, to him.
I sent Earth's Last Starfleet and the Owl-Headed Wand.
Nice. I currently, I'm still hacking away at Murder in Stratton County, my serialized podcast that I have. I just released episode 8 in time. It was a little late, but I still did it today. It's out there. It's available. Listen to it. And like Dan said, episode 9 and 10 of Joshua of Egypt is out and available. So people have been listening. The downloads are going whoop up. So, which is good to see.
Yep. I will get the next part recorded. I want to finish this because I got a big project ahead for recording something, and I need to get this done. And I'm fairly close to the end of the story too. So the action's about to start.
Perfect. Brian, are you in this one?
The Earth's Last Starfleet? He's Captain Brian Shepard. He's still there. In fact, I kind of made the story a little more about him.
Yes, I am in that. I am the main character. Woo-hoo.
Have you read it?
I have not read Earth's Last Starfleet. No. I know I was in it, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Actually,
that's one story that no, that's not true. There's been I think a few other ones where I had to wait along with everyone else until it came out, because normally you'll either send me tidbits or I get your, to read or something to, whatever, beforehand. But no, not that one. I had to wait. I own it on Kindle. I haven't read it yet.
You need to read it because
I know I need
the first story. I purposely split the screen time between your character and Sherry's character because that was the point. Well, this one, I made it highly focused on Brian's character, on Captain Shepard's character.
Right. Yes.
So I want you to read it because I want you to see what I put you through. The first scenes alone are worth it.
I think I remember you telling me briefly what the character kind of goes through. So, yeah.
Yeah, Jim, I honestly will be very honest. I didn't get Flegel in too much in this, into the Earth-sized Starfleet. Flegel is one of his characters. Flegel is in it as a different alien race, a dog-like alien race.
Okay.
If I write more, which I do plan on writing more of the Earth-sized Starship world, I'm going to put Flegel. He's going to get more screen time. This time around, it was difficult to get him in there as much because there's only so much time for the characters and to get the story running.
Right.
But I want to put him in there, and I might actually talk to Jim about how I put him in there because there's different angles I'm thinking about his character.
Send it to me for signing? Is that what he's saying?
Mm-hmm.
You can mail it to me. I'll take your book from England and then mail it back to you, which I've done before. I will definitely sign it if that's what you want to do, but I highly recommend you finish it first. Read it and then send it, and then I'll sign it.
Well, it's 9:00.
I know. It's late already. And it doesn't even feel like it's been an hour.
I know.
Whatever. Time flies when you're also talking to all these people that come on after the fact or close to the end, folks. All right. So next Thursday, I believe.
Find a guest for us next Thursday. I'm going to try to get Keith.
Putting the well. See, again, it's difficult because it's either nobody wants to do it or they're for it and they're supporting other friends or other people and they don't, it's weird. So I'm still working on like other types of guests that I haven't had on the show before. So groups that I'm part of on Facebook or, whatever. I don't know. We'll see. We got to get somebody on here now.
Well, I'm glad to have everybody here. Jim, I was glad to see you. It's been a while since you've been able to get on here.
I have saying. Oh, okay.
Barbara.
Yeah, it is nice seeing you. I know the time difference. Sorry. So, yeah, you'll have to start from the beginning there, Jim. I know it's 2:00 in the morning there.
Ooh.
So Good morning, Jim, and good night from us, pretty much. So we will see everyone next Thursday as usual at 8:00, unless something comes up. But I don't think anything's coming up. I have to find somebody to come on and chit chat with us. So and we'll go from there. So thanks for watching, everyone, and don't forget to like and share. And that's it from me, I think. Anything else?
Just always remember, I need reviews. I'm desperate. I'm 3 away from my goal on Owl-Headed Wand. So if anybody's read it who hasn't left a review on Amazon, please do. Other than that, just have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.